Yep, that's
Cool.
yeah. You can just shorten it to rittz if you want, but yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna
Oh
check
well.
out Death Roll Frenzy by Ritz, and let's get the game open here. So, can you start by talking about your background in game development and your role on this project?
Sure. So I solo developed this. The only thing I used externally was the music. I just found some royalty-free stuff.
Okay.
I've been doing game dev on and off for a few years now, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, I have more of a background in art first, and eventually I was like, I could, or I got started with Unreal Engine because I had heard that it was good for what is it? Good for artists with the blueprint systems. I'm like, oh, I'll try that out, and I found it to be true. Um, and I've just kind of been going, making 3D platformers here and there. So I thought I'd test my metal a little bit here and try to make one in a very short window.
Oh, you need the die to finish the level. Heck. I think I'm probably going to die here. I'm glad I picked the like slow dice option. So
Yeah, yeah,
is this built predominantly with blueprints then?
yes. I do all my stuff in blueprints basically. I know that they're slightly less performant, but it's been mostly fine so far.
Oh no! Oh my gosh, it's so violent. Her whole head explodes.
she she does have a fuse attached.
Okay, so that's your like big throw. Like you get an extra double jump with the.
Yeah, if you're holding it.
Oh my god, I keep getting negative ones. This is terrible. Okay, and I specifically picked slow just
Yeah,
to give myself a better chance here, but I don't know.
yeah. It, I had really wished that I had made the timers say or the options
Uh
say
oh.
fast and normal instead of normal and slow.
It is a weird
Uh,
like point of pride thing that people.
yeah.
Oh wow! So you get like a very substantial dash.
Yes.
Oh my god. um, in practice, FPS is mostly about graphics and not game logic, so it doesn't matter if it's Blueprint or C++. Yeah, Lurk Not Lie has been using Unreal for quite a while, so take his word for it. Yeah, if you're not looping something a billion times per frame, it's fine. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just get that each of your questions back open here. Despite the fact you'd think after I'm doing this so often, I would remember the questions, but I still need the visual reference. So, can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the game?
Sure. So like I said, I was pretty sure I wanted to do a platformer still and not go crazy with the game type here. Just more about the time constraints. I might have done 2D, but I was just thinking when I first got the thing, I'm like, okay, I want something that where the RNG doesn't directly affect your ability to platform. I didn't want like, oh, you roll a dice and now you can do a double jump or something, or like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that just seemed annoying to me. So I wanted the RNG to be there, but impact you in some way that isn't, again, directly your skills. So eventually I came to the idea of it being your time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of went from there. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want you to play as a dice because that sucks. There's going to be tons of games doing that already, and
Mm-hmm.
indeed there are. I'm like, I have good, decent fundamentals for character animation and everything, so I did that. And you got the
Nice.
character, you got your dice, and it just goes from there. I just built the move set up in the ways that made sense to me with the more limited button count. Some of the other games I make have a lot more buttons going on, but this one I kept it to 2.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah. Okay, good. You got the recall.
Yeah, I that was the one thing I was like, I'm missing something here because like, how do I make this jump? And then yes, you can do the like dash in midair.
Yeah.
That is definitely the one thing that will always throw me off. Is like if I'm trying to talk to somebody, but I also trying to read the text in the game.
Hmm. Yeah, the tutorialization for this game could have been way better. I do want to fix it. If I for a post-jam version, but live with what I got for now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do what you can in 48 hours.
All right. So, what was the actual development process like for the game? Did you like start from a character controller blueprint that you already had like a template for, or?
I just started with the defaults. Unreal has a few like stock yeah, templates, I suppose, for stuff like first-person or third-person characters or vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one for third-person characters, which, yeah, it feels really bad, but you can tweak the numbers and everything to get it to feel pretty good. The one thing is I always make a custom jump now, because I can't tweak the numbers to get the jump feeling good enough for my standards. But outside of that, the only other thing I like lifted was the camera code.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, I probably could have remade the camera in like an hour or something. If I already know what I'm doing, I'm just gonna copy and paste this. But everything else, yeah. I went as I went. As for the rest of it, I was very unsure if I was going to be happy with this game in the first couple of hours when I was prototyping it. I'm like, this might not be any fun. I don't know. But eventually, as I got more stuff going in the character animations, and the game feel, and the level design, and everything started coming together, I'm like, okay, it works. this is actually decently fun still.
I don't actually know what I just collected there. This little like ring thing.
Yeah, someone called it a powdered donut. It's just a random item. I didn't have time to think of something appropriate, so I'm like, I'll just get a Taurus. You do keep it, by the way, when you die.
Okay.
Are you much of a 3D platformer kind of guy, or?
I would say like yes and no. Like I've played my fair share of like Mario 3D platformers,
okay.
but
Yeah.
Oh no, I just seem to be getting some supremely bad luck with the rolls in the game. But yeah, it's definitely like I'm fine with the concept of doing a game like this under duress, but at the same time, like I don't like being defeated by I just got some bad rolls.
No, I get you. You can definitely if you feel like your time is ticking down a little low, you can always just spam rolls a little bit.
Yeah, I've even like tried to do that, and it still like wasn't enough. I ended up dying.
I would definitely wait to die a little bit more for a patch. Someone mentioned they got like 4 negative ones in a row, and I'm like, yeah, that's not. I want there to be a possibility that you get you can die if you're waiting way too long and you're just hoping it'll save you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want that sort of thing to happen. That's definitely outside the intended experience.
So what is the what is influencing the length of time it takes to retrieve the die? Because sometimes it seems to happen like pretty quick, and other times it seems to happen pretty slowly.
Yeah. So it tells you on the next level, but it's literally just how many times you've done it.
Okay. And then, what am I supposed to do here? If you're holding the dice in the air.
So in the last message, it tells you to throw a dice and then catch it with your dive.
Oh, I don't. Wow. How do you do that? Oh, you throw it first, then dive into it?
Yeah. So you throw it from the ground.
Okay.
And then you dive into it while it's in the air.
It's
a little esoteric. I fully admit. This is one of the things. Like, I wish I like drew diagrams or something for players first, because it's hard to explain, just like with words.
Oh, like that. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that exactly.
Yeah.
So then you can combine that. There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. No, not a wall jump, just a like sort of. Okay, every recall the die makes it take longer. Be mindful of how you. Okay.
So yeah, every time you do something like a dice jump where you throw it down, you're like, okay, do I want to do this now? Because it'll cost me more time later if I want to recall it.
Yeah.
And no, there's there's no wall jumps. I did consider it, but I'm like, I think that's a little outside of the level design scope for this. And how much time do I have for level creation? It's a good question. I would guess maybe like 8 to 12. No, that seems too high. Maybe like 6 to 8. I know I did not get to spend as much time on level design as I would have liked to. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about a platformer like this, where you have an object your platform, like kind of like Lover, I guess. But with the time mechanic, I think it's best that the moveset doesn't get like too much crazier. That there's already a good bit here for most people, so I think it's plenty as is.
Yeah, I'm definitely having a little bit of trouble remembering all the different mechanics that I have.
Yeah,
Not
it's a
dying.
very iterative game at the moment. Ah,
Oh no. Like, despite the fact
yeah,
that
a
there's
lot of
only
time
2
now.
buttons. Oh, that's interesting. Despite the fact that there's only 2 buttons, I somehow seem to be, like, still getting them wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely still a lot of concepts to eat. Some people it clicks with a lot more if they're used to this sort of thing, but if you're not, like this isn't Mario, you know.
Yeah.
Mario's like you have a jump and you have a bunch of other jumps you can do, but you never have to utilize that stuff. You know, like in Odyssey, you have like the hat dive.
Mm-hmm.
That's very popular in like speedrun stuff. You
Oh,
never
yeah.
have to do that. The game never tells you about that. It never requires it. It's just like it's there for fun. This game is like, okay, you have to learn the hat dive like 2 minutes in.
A little bit, yeah.
And I totally get why that's a lot for many people. Um,
How did you come up with the concept for the character?
yeah, it was just the idea of like, okay, well, you have a limited timer. So I'm like, and after that you die, and like, what's a timer that like expires? I'm like, okay, it's like a bomb. I was like, okay, I'll do like a bomb head. And the first one looked more like a bob bomb, but with a body.
Mm-hmm.
I settled on this one where she's kind of like a bomb person, but not like explicitly one.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the fuse would be a really good like a visual indicator for your time left. I was surprised at how not a problem at getting the fuse implemented actually was. I thought it'd be way more of an issue, but
I will say that it is a little demoralizing to fail at this jump to get the Taurus over here, because not only do you have to repeat basically the whole level if you fail that. I'm definitely much more in the camp of checkpoints often and make them as forgiving as possible so that the player has to repeat as little as possible.
I get that. To be fair, these levels are incredibly short. It's just that with the way that you play it, they can feel longer than they are. The last one does get a good bit long, though. The game is definitely fairly challenging, and what is it? If I had more time, I would definitely ease the player into this a little more. But can you manipulate how the dice spins easily? Not directly. But you can definitely do things to. You do cap out on time, by the way.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you have your other stuff to manipulate the dice, but it's not quite You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna get like a 4 here.
So does the if you do like the jump in midair when you
Hmm.
when you don't have to die, does that do anything? Like, is that a air stall or?
So it does give you the first one in the air gives you a very little bit of a stall, yeah. But also it can hit the dice.
Yeah, I actually just did that as you were saying it, and then I
Yeah.
exploded.
I the intention for this game is it's kind of what is it? Like very fast iteration. To hopefully try and promote mastery to some extent. Again, something kind of like a Meat Boy or Celeste deal, but it's definitely a little bit more frustrating since it's outside of your control to some extent, more so. Whew. It's not a perfect game by any means, but I'm still happy with it, I think.
So, what do you think that you might like? Do you have plans for a post-gen version?
I definitely want to at least do some quality of life fixes. Again, people have complained about the keyboard controls because it's shift to throw it. They're like, this sucks. And I'm like, that's fair. I didn't, I meant to test it on keyboard, but I totally forgot before I put it out. Um, I'm gonna mess with the tutorialization a little bit. I want to give you a longer timer on the first couple of levels at a baseline, so it's easier to get the grips with the controls and everything. Um, Probably add a few more assets to the level since it's literally just a triplanar texture right now on a bunch of cubes
Mm-hmm.
with the occasional light. Um, I might make something a little more beefed up. I could see this being on Steam for a couple dollars with another couple weeks on it, but I don't think I should do that right now. I should finish my current game that I'm working on first. Um,
So I don't know if you saw on my screen, but when I failed this jump, I just like sat and waited to die because I figured, well, I basically have to redo the entire level all over again because I fell here. Like that's what
there
I'm
is
talking
the
about.
quick restart button.
What is? Oh yeah, pressing back on the controller.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about. Where it's like that's something that I very specifically avoid in like the game that I released recently. It's a 2D platformer called Worlds Within
Yeah.
Worlds, and I have like incredibly frequent checkpoints in this game. Like I don't want the player to have to redo a single challenge. Like it's not to the point where I'll let them like I'm okay. YouTube, hello. Okay. Sometimes YouTube embed just seems to like not want to play. But yeah, so from the start of this level that you're going to see in a couple seconds due to lag, the player starts on one side of this jump, gets a checkpoint in the middle of the screen, does another jump, gets another checkpoint, does one more like really hard jump at the end of the level, and that's it. Like if you
Right.
fail at any single one of those points, there's a checkpoint, or there are these little teleporter sort of this like teleportation energy, like on this screen here. If you fail the very first jump on the screen, you're dropped back here. I don't even kill the player. I just drop them back at the start of the level,
Right.
and that just sort of always gives you this forward momentum in the game where you just like you never have to redo something that you've already done. Like getting up to here to this point in the game and then failing at this one jump doesn't feel like I should have to do all of that over again.
Uh, yeah, it's an interesting difference in philosophy. I'm not trying to be like overly punishing to the player or anything. Um, but it could certainly end up that way, despite my intent. But I don't think what is it? I think they're both perfectly valid ways to design a game. It just depends on what you're going for. Um, Because what is it? There's something to be said about asking a player to actively master an entire sequence and not just like one or two jumps.
Yes,
Um,
for sure. But like, is it? What am I learning by redoing that part of the game? What am I gaining by doing all of that again just to get back to this one single jump, which maybe isn't even hard for you, but just for some reason I failed at it like twice in a row there.
yeah. Ideally, you should be finding like a more efficient way to do things, and like the game should overall be getting easier for you as you repeat the mechanics. Mastery by repetition. I understand though that like I could certainly be probably be doing more to alleviate the frustration, but um,
And
yeah, you pulled that one
that's
off pretty well.
that's where like yeah. So again, it was just like that one jump where for some reason I was having trouble with it, and then the rest of it wasn't so hard. But that's where we get back to the way that I designed Worlds Within Worlds, where like
Yeah.
anyone can beat that game within about 20 to 30 minutes. But the speedrun record is like sub 5 minutes right now.
Sure.
And that's what I was optimizing for. It's like I want anyone to be able to finish this, and then I want people to find those optimizations that you're talking about on a second playthrough. I want to design this to be so much fun that people are going to want to come back, want to play it again, not just like, well, I keep falling at this one part and I don't want to redo it, so I'm going to quit and not play and not see the rest of the game.
That's fair. I guess to me, what is it? I'm hoping that playing the experience of playing the game and messing with the mechanics and just the feel of playing the controller is enough to keep the person engaged with everything. If it doesn't work out that way, very unfortunate for me, I suppose. But I do not. Again, I do want to improve that. The other games I'm working on are better about the thing you're talking about, and I think are lower on the frustration for sure. But I think for this game, the the frustration, the repetition, and everything kind of fits with the vibe. I don't know.
Well, in terms of like, I don't know. I think that
It's an interesting
it's
discussion, though. I certainly think so.
yeah. Like I don't want to come across as like overly critical. I just it is um it is very much something that I've talked a lot about. I've designed an entire game around this ethos. So when I
Sure.
come up against something that is like really not doing these things, it's like it it's the kind of thing that would make me not want to play a game, but it's the kind of thing that makes other people want to play a game. Like there
Yeah.
are of the like comments on Worlds Within Worlds on Armor Games. There are tons of
Mhm.
people saying this is great. I loved it. I had like difficulty was perfect. There's no one saying it's too hard, and that I consider
Sure.
a success. There are like 3 or 4 people saying too easy, and it's like okay, well you didn't find the challenge in wanting to replay the game because it's not necessarily fair to expect oh, it's hard if you make it hard for yourself, if you try to go fast. That's not something the game's intrinsically asking of you. It's a self-imposed challenge. But that is just like again part of my larger design ethos. Like I'm somebody who mods Dark Souls to give myself extra health and not drop souls on death. Like I am very much about player control, player set difficulty.
I do think giving players the ability to modulate their experience is totally a thing I am down for. But I still would have like a certain thing as like the default. But I still like. I mean, that's why I put the slow timer on there.
Yeah,
And hell,
exactly. I can tell.
what
Yeah.
I actually play tested this game with like a third of the time that you had
Right.
as normal, and I was like, okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to set the baseline up, and I'm like, this is probably still too much, so I'm gonna put the slow timer in. But I wish I named it the other thing.
No, but
um,
I think you absolutely nailed it from that perspective. Like keeping track of what people can achieve relative to your skill as a developer. So
yeah.
I don't feel I do think it's a bit of a drag when I like at the end there I just died because the die just refused to roll what I needed to.
Sure. No, I get you.
But that's also just the nature of this being a die. Like
Yeah, there's definitely supposed to be a little bit of maybe next time. Fucking. There's what is it? There's that bit where like you're getting really low on time and you're like desperately trying to roll the dice and praying it gives you something good is something I actually enjoy about this. Although I do think I need to weigh it so that it gives you what you want more often. Because right now it is just totally random, which and makes for unfortunate circumstances. But I like that like it's why Frenzy's in the name. I like that like desperate like attempt to try and stay alive there.
mhm.
Your bit where you said you want to make sure like everyone can finish the game, I think
Yeah.
is a big point of where we where is it? Divert. I don't care if everyone finishes or not. I don't think all games should be for everyone. They don't need to be. I'm not gonna go out of my way to be like you don't deserve to beat my game or whatever. But I'm not gonna like bend over backwards to try and accommodate people who aren't really like here for the experience I'm trying to provide. You know what I mean?
That's not it, though. It's a matter
No,
of
I get you.
accessibility. Like,
No, I
it's
get you.
not about
But
yeah, like
there's the accessibility can eventually turn into just an entirely different experience if it gets pushed way too far, and that's fair to that person. But it's still a matter of like, just again, not every game needs to be for everyone.
No, and I'm not saying that, but I do think that, like, you know, I want to play Dark Souls. I want to have that.
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of that game that I enjoy. If I were to listen to the Dark Souls community, nope, too bad. Game's not for me. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed
Sure.
to enjoy that. And that's where, like, that's the space you have to work in. Where you clearly you don't mean it this way, but like, you're not trying to create a game that is like, oh, if you're a fan of 3D platformers and you like the mechanics of this character and the jumping, that all feels good, but you're just having too hard of a time with the timing aspect of it, then yeah, I might just say like, oh, well, that's okay. Just let the like, play this without the time limit. And maybe you'd say like, well, no, I think that is entirely outside the point of the game. The time limit is like intrinsic to the what's going on here. I'm not going to create a version of the game where that's not part of it. But I would say, you know, if somebody just wants to experience this as a 3D platformer, then what is the yeah, like, this is where I would call it. Like, I would love to finish this, but because of the eye mechanic, this is where I would be calling it.
No, I get you. To be fair, what is it? I wouldn't normally design a game like this.
Sure.
But I think for the experience that I created here, it works for what this is. This is definitely an interesting discussion to have, though. I appreciate this back and forth.
Yeah, because I don't think that we entirely, like, we agree like 70%. I think there's definitely a difference, and I think it's interesting to find the line there. And
yeah, no, for sure. There's an interesting thing too. Like, I think having an extremely checkpoint focused, or not focused, but an extremely checkpoint heavy game drastically alters your level design. Not necessarily in a way that I think is better or worse, but it does change it. I think that's an interesting thing I've been trying to look at a little bit as I look at games again, like Celeste, or like Meat Boy, or like classic Castlevania or Mario, and the different ways they handle design via checkpoints and everything. Oh, there's one. I can't. As much as I am where I am in my position, I do not want to play old games without save states.
Yeah.
I would not have gotten through classic Castlevania 1 if I couldn't like save state at the end of every stage at the very least. I'm sure I could have eventually done it, but I just don't have the patience to do all of that and restart from the very fucking beginning of the game when I run out of lives. That's too much. This level is also definitely what is it? I understand this level being the line for a lot of people because it is definitely the longest, and it's also the one I threw together like at the last minute. I do not hold it against anyone who fucking throws in the towel, so to speak. The level design is far from perfect here. I do think it's more of probably a level design and teaching problem than a mechanics problem, if I'm being honest.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the mechanics. Like, it is just the, like, I don't want to complete this under the duress of having a limited time to do it. Like, for I shouldn't say some, but for like a lot of people, that is just like, that's where they draw the line. Like, oh god, no, doing that again. See, that is like, well, I made it through the whole thing, but now I got to do it again because I just slipped on the ledge and I didn't do the jump properly.
See, there's an interesting evolution here because, like, this specific section I'm hoping to design it in a way that I guess it could have been better, but clues you in that you can do other things to get up there. Because I mentioned that what is it? You can kick the dice to get it higher. This is the first time I bring up the mechanic, like in text, and then I'm like, okay, well, I hope you notice it. Like, oh, I also get like bounced up when I do that. And if you put those together, you can actually get over that ledge where the text is and just fucking eschew that entire section altogether.
Okay.
There's a lot of mechanical tricks here that I'm hoping. I guess I'm hoping that the player is able to get through that second playthrough kind of like speedrun vibe on their like first time through, quote unquote, just by the rest. Like, okay, I don't want to do this again, so surely there must be a faster way to. And there always is. For every section here, you can shortcut shit once you figure it out. But asking the player to figure that out is a big ask. And is why I'm like, this is probably more of a, or not more of a, but yeah.
No. Okay. And that's it. I'm done. I'm not.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I understand. I totally understand.
So, like that is the way that I built levels. I think it's the way that a lot of people will naturally default to building levels. Is like, oh, isn't it cool to have this like upward ascension? But when you can miss a jump and then fall all the way back down,
Yeah.
like that is such a crushing feeling. It's something
Yeah.
I never want players.
No,
to
that's
experience.
intentional. That's intentional. I designed this level for that.
Why?
I think the lows are important as the high, which is the point of a dice also. I think just having all highs is a little hollow. Loss makes the wins that much more what's the word? Fulfilling, I think. If it's too much, I understand. Maybe I've pushed my philosophy too far here. I did make that level, like I said, I threw it together. It might not work, but that's the idea.
I'm firmly in the Nintendo camp where every level is just a joyous experience where there's just constantly new mechanics, and like the enjoyment is out of novelty and expressive play, and it doesn't have anything to do with like.
See, here's the thing. There's tons of those games.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of games that ask you to do the hat dive from minute 5, and that's why I'm here. I want to push platformers in a way that they don't get pushed as hard enough. Maybe I'm not doing a good job. I don't know, but I want to try it.
You can create a game that is difficult. Like there's a difference between difficulty and challenge, right? Like
sure.
I here you want to see a difficult game? Cliff. That's okay. Dashboard. Cliff. Where's Cliff? Come on. Cliff. Okay. Here is Cliff. It is a insanely difficult game. Oh yeah, embedded YouTube is broken. All it is you have a little character on the left, and you have to hit one button and make this jump to the right, and it is like almost frame perfect. And it's a one button game where I had a whole bunch of people all playing it with just multiple keyboards, and there we go. Difficult game achieved. It's a one button game. Very difficult. See, one person,
sure.
2 people made it. Okay. Is that game challenging or fun at all? Like, it might be fun for like the first 5 minutes. You're going to give up on this real quick.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying difficulty for difficulty's sake, but I want to try and push design in a way that asks more of a player than like a Mario game does.
Sure, and that's fine. But when the frustration, like, again.
No, there's definitely a tipping point. It's just I gotta find where that is.
Exactly. We're finding the line here. I'm saying that the line is, don't make me do stuff I've done before. Like, keep throwing harder jumps, harder executions in front of me. No problem. I just don't want to go back and do something I already did. That is the point that like you will lose me so hard, is just making me feel like I'm repeating stuff, right? You can make the jumps in this as technical and as challenging as you want. If I know that I can just like go again, I fell, no problem. I just give it another try. That is going to make me feel engaged and make me want to throw myself at it and want to master it. If I get over a jump, even if it was just kind of a fluke, that's okay. You can give it to the player, you know? You can, because here's the thing, right?
There's a lot of that here, actually.
Sure, yeah. And here's the thing. when you're constructing a challenge and you just got to like jump from point A to point B, there are only
Hmm.
so many geometric ways to arrange things. Like you're
Yep.
going to end up doing quote unquote the same jump several times throughout a game. But
Yep.
as long as the environment geometry at least feels a little different, you're not going to notice. So even if
No, for
I
sure.
made it through as a fluke 2 or 3 of the first times, and then afterwards I've got to get more consistent about my mastery, that's where it's um, like that is where you can ensure that the player isn't just making it by fluke, that they are actually mastering it because of the number of successive jumps you're asking them to go to succeed at in a row is like still slowly steadily increasing as they are building out that mastery. Like I'm fascinated by watching Kaizo Mario runs, like the recent GDQ. There were a couple of those like Kaizo Mario races, and the ability of those speedrunners to like blind read these insane level designs.
Yeah.
um, I think those are amazing. I'm just thinking like, oh, I could put a checkpoint there, and I could put a checkpoint there, and I could put a checkpoint there, and it's like it's all just about giving the player the opportunity to like get through something, and then taking away that like that floor of feeling like it's all about all the challenge, none of the rage quit. That has always been my design ethos, and it's I think it is totally fine. Like as you say, there's clearly an audience for those kind of like super difficult games out
Now,
there.
yeah, I'm not going to a point of Kaizo difficulty. I hate. I
Yeah,
don't like that. Have you played the game called Garlic? It's a 2D platformer.
no.
It's kind of like Celeste, but it's way more Kaizo in its level
Mhm.
design, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah,
I don't like that game.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it's okay, but again, not for me. Um, I'm not at that point. I'm not like gonna go crazy, and I think again, one of the things with this game is that just the I guess that would be the difficulty curve is way out of whack.
hmm
Um, a lot of it is just down to teaching and the kind of stuff, and also the fact that I wasn't able to make any level mechanics to go with this stuff,
hmm
and I could have like if the game was a lot more. Now I do think there should have been some more basic dice throwing and jumping to
hmm
get you more acquainted with the controls and the feeling of everything for sure. But if I did too much of that, it just would have gotten really boring, really fast, and tedious for different reasons.
hmm
Because like you said, there's if you're just making the same jump over and over, it's like eh. So
yeah,
I had to get into the meat of the movement mechanic really quickly. Um, but it's too quickly and it's not taught properly, and there's all kinds of stuff that could have been done better with this idea.
yeah. And I am going to take a second to acknowledge that I understand that this is a jam game, and
Yeah.
that the way that I get around the monotony of what you're describing, like it gets boring for the player to have to just do the same couple jumps over and over again to master them, because you you have to add mechanics. Like this game is entirely about the player controller. There's no
Yeah.
hazards, there's no like enemies, there's no obstacles. It's just platforming.
Yep.
So I have the luxury with Worlds Within Worlds of peppering in other little platforming elements like the portals and the goblins you got to jump on their heads and the jellies you got to like bounce off of them and do whatever other stuff
Hmm.
to break up the pace of things. So I
No,
totally
for sure.
understand that you're compensating for that with difficulty, essentially.
Yeah. 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 That's definitely a part of what's going on here.
Yeah. So I guess yeah. Anyway, I just any time that I see difficulty as presented in a certain way, it just kind of gives me like a knee jerk reaction, because it's like I didn't enjoy this as a kid. I enjoy it even less as an adult who doesn't have much free time, who can feel like my reflexes were never that great and they're not getting any better.
Sure.
And I'm thinking ahead, and it's like I want games to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. I want to
Hmm.
be able to modulate the experience so that I can still get that feeling of satisfaction of like pushing myself to the limit of my skill, but not to a point where like it's interfering on like the 1 hour of time that I have in a week to sit down and play a game, right?
No,
So
sure.
that
Yeah.
that is
And
always
that
the reason that I want to advocate for having these difficulty modifiers is not everyone's going to be young forever, and there are some people who have motor disabilities and can't, um, already at a younger age have trouble keeping up with these fast-paced platformers. Can
Yeah.
you implement all of that in the scope of a game jam? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But just keep it in mind when you're building a game that you're going to bring to commercial release, because there are lots of
No,
people
for sure.
out there for whom they would benefit from this.
Yeah, accessibility options and stuff is like a whole. I'm totally down for all that. It's just when it comes to building the baseline experience of what I want to try and provide the
Yeah,
player with, we do have still slightly different philosophies, and that's fine.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
totally room for both of these.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
There are different audiences for the different like appeals that we're going for. There's
yeah.
like there are a few key sticking points that I want to make sure it's like we need to overlap on these 3 points, otherwise I'm gonna get mad. If we don't
No, I
overlap on
get
the other ones, that's okay.
yeah, like I'm making a game called or I was. I'll be getting back to a game called Goodnight Sunlight, which is my one game that's like actually like a full game with linear 3D platformer progression and everything.
Mhm.
Um yeah, it's more on my Twitter right now. But the checkpoints there are I try to be good about them. They're not quite as much as you had in that last game. Um this isn't really a level, it's just showing off mechanics, but
Yeah, but this, still we can get a sense for it.
But yeah, I'm trying to, like you said, I'm not trying to make it too demanding, but it's
Mhm.
not. I think what you have in that other game seems like a bit overkill for what I would like to go for. But
Sure.
yeah, um, man, there was a game called Demon Turf that came out recently, and its approach to this problem was it lets the player set the checkpoints.
Mhm. I saw that in
Um,
They Bleed Pixels too.
yeah, I don't really like it in the context of a linear game because it requires that you know what the level is going to be, or
Yeah.
either that or you're in tune with the level designer.
Mhm.
Um, it means it's kind of just roll the die of like, how much are you on the same page as the person
Mhm.
who made this level?
Yeah.
If you're on the same page, it'll be great. You'll know exactly where to place the checkpoints just by the feel of it. If
Yeah.
you're not and you guess wrong, you're now at this last section with like no recompense for how to get past
Yeah.
in like a reasonable amount of time. You just got to reset the whole game now or the whole level now. It's definitely a delicate balance to strike.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, there's a reason that I've avoided player set checkpoints as well, because
Yeah,
I think that, yeah, there's a lot that can go wrong, and I'd rather just have checkpoints at every viable position that they could be, that it feels like a
sure.
good position for one to exist. And then
Hmm.
if you don't need it, you don't have to get it necessarily. Like, the other thing that I will say is really cool about the checkpoints in Worlds Within Worlds is each of them is also a gate out of the level.
Hmm.
So when you're speedrunning the game, it gives you that opportunity to play some levels in a like slightly different order and feel like, okay, I'm grabbing these little objective things and then I'm going back and I'm leaving the level through one gate or another, and it's not just a matter of like, okay, get back to the start. Like, it is very much inspired by N++, but
Yeah.
like pulling things in a bit of a different direction.
Hmm.
So anyway, Ritz, thank you so much for having this like prolonged design discussion
Yeah.
with me. I think that like
It's
kind of threw the rest of my the questions out the window, but I will still ask. You mentioned that you're working on the other game, Goodnight Sunlight, and
yeah.
so is
That's
Twitter the best way to follow you for that?
Yeah, definitely just Twitter, or if you want to follow me on H2. Although I'm not working on Goodnight Sunlight right now. I'm working on a different 3D platformer because this is just where I'm at right now. Um, I hope to have it out this year. It's a roguelike 3D platformer, um, and all the levels are randomly generated, of course. And you
Mhm.
get like different abilities you can mix and match. I think it's a good bit of fun. It's just kind of like almost like a popcorn 3D platformer. Um, but yeah, it makes me wonder how much you would like it because due to the nature it's a roguelike, there is a good bit of repetition going on. Um,
Well, we can
but yeah,
always see. You're welcome to submit the game to my regular feedback streams. Those are on Monday from 3:30 to 5:30 Eastern time. Read as in
okay,
half an hour from current time
yeah,
is when I usually start those up. So yeah, I'm always willing to give it a try. I'm always willing to like share my thoughts on these things because I think that there are some fundamentals that every game should have in terms of just ensuring that they are accessible.
Sure.
But the way you can do that, like I, I'm going to make one last point here, just using my own game as an example. But
Hmm.
the I didn't like the accessibility mechanics in Celeste
Okay.
because I thought that it's like, okay, well, you're just making the player invincible. That doesn't really feel like I'm still playing the game. It feels like I'm cheating.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what I did in my game is I had this little butterfly that you can control with the mouse, and that disables hazards so that they don't hurt the player at all.
Oh, a bit
And
like Mario Galaxy.
exactly Mario Galaxy. But this means that you can still make the game easy for yourself. You can still trivialize anything that feels like it's too hard to make it, but
Right.
it's never required, right? That's what I've got on big text on
Hmm.
this screen. And it feels like an active part of the game to the point where I have actually started seeing people. Um, one person in particular has actually started speed running the game with the assist mechanic, and it's like a whole different skill to be able to play the game flawlessly with your left hand while manipulating the butterfly and moving it around and making jumps that otherwise weren't even possible.
No, sure.
So
That's fair. That is an inventive bit of accessibility for sure. That's very cool.
yeah, and it doesn't always work with every game. Like it worked in the context of this game because
Yeah.
it's just a little like circle of the screen that you're punching out and not letting the player get hurt in.
Yeah.
So not every game has it this easy to implement a accessibility mechanic like that, but yeah,
No,
I
for
think
sure.
that it's something to strive for.
Yeah, I want to. What is it? I would like to. I guess where I'm at is I would like to make my game playable
Hmm.
as many people as possible, but without, I guess, compromising my vision or whatever.
Exactly. Yes, and I completely understand that because like as much as I will always say like players should be able to modulate difficulty,
Hmm.
as an artist, as a designer, as a developer, like you have your vision for the game and you want to
Yeah,
create that experience and I do not want you to compromise on that.
yeah. It's a push and pull.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's all very delicate balance to strike. It's hard to figure out without extensive play testing and stuff.
Yep, yep,
Because
for
you're
sure.
always just in your own head about these mechanics, and it's like, okay, this is fine, right? And it's like, well, no, actually, this is still bullshit. Which is why, again, I doubled down on timer expansion options. And
Hmm.
again, it's still not enough. There's definitely a lot of places where this game is bullshit. I won't, I'm not gonna lie. But I like the direction of it, I
Yeah, for
guess.
sure.
It's because, like, I can't, this game, for good or bad, I think it creates. I want to say it's mostly good, but it creates an interesting experience that I can't think of in like any other 3D platformer or that like has a similar thing going on.
Mm.
And I feel good about that, even if it's
Yeah,
kind of jank.
absolutely. You know, again, I'm always grading on that curve of this is a jam game. I understand that, like, given that extra time, you know, you can do stuff differently. So
Yeah.
no fault there for that. But yeah, again, Ritz, thank you so much for having this conversation. Think this was a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
I
No,
would
I
love to
don't get
see.
I don't
Sorry,
get
go
to
ahead.
have a big like game design philosophy discussion like this very often. So it's cool. It's fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. But yeah, and I would love to see like I hope don't feel gun shy. Like please share whatever you like, and I'd be more than happy to at least be one data point. If not, if even if you're already pretty sure that I'm not in the like target audience for the game, that I feel like there's still some stuff I can say that.
No, for sure. It's always good to get feedback from people who are still like outside the audience or outside of like your spheres or whatever, just to see what's up. Good feedback can come from anyone. I've always thought that. Um, doesn't matter who they are.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's as good a place as I need to wrap up. But thanks
All
again,
right.
and have a good one.
Yeah. No. Thanks for having me. Good luck with the rest of your stream.
Thanks so much.
I'll be hovering around a bit.
Sound good. Okay.